So the census is going to be very different this year for a number of reasons. One of the big ones is that it's going to be online for the first time this year primarily. That's the primary conduit through which the Census Bureau would like people to respond to the census. So people will get a card directing them to a website. If they don't go to the website, they'll get paper forms, and only if they don't complete the paper forms, then somebody will knock on the door. But that's a big difference. There also will be fewer resources that the census has because the Census Bureau hasn't been fully funded, and so there will be probably fewer people knocking on doors and doing things like that. So very different, and so there's a lot of reasons. In addition, there was an effort to add a citizenship question, which may be scaring some people off, and so there's a lot of concern that all of these changes in tandem will work to reduce census participation, particularly among low-income communities of color that are hard to count in places like New York, where they live in high-rise apartment blocks, or places like Texas, where they live in colonias or that. There will not be a citizenship question on the 2020 census. However, the Census Bureau has said that, and been directed by the Trump administration to try to impute the citizenship of people who respond to the census using administrative records. So things like passport records, driver's license records, and other records will be used to try to impute the citizenship of people. We don't know a lot about exactly how that process will work or whether there will be legal challenges to that, but right now the plans are for the Census Bureau, alongside the redistricting data, to release imputed citizenship data. I think in a lot of ways it will be a repeat of what happened in 2011 when the data was released, although that again could be impacted by the level of citizen participation in the census. But Texas is expected to gain 3 congressional seats. It gained 4 last decade. Florida will gain 2. North Carolina and a few other states will pick up a single congressional district, whereas states like New York and Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania will lose a congressional seat. So you'll see a continuation of the shift of political power from the Northeast to the South. They are mostly all done now. There's a little bit of wrangling in North Carolina State Court over some legal challenges to the legislative and congressional maps there, but everything else at the federal level is done. Partisan gerrymandering now is something that the federal courts at least, will not get involved in, and the Supreme Court set some important limits on the ability to racial gerrymander, namely that you can't use race as a proxy for politics and draw districts that favor one party or the other using race. Up until now, states in the South and a few states elsewhere had to get their redistricting plans pre-cleared, which meant that they either had to go to the Justice Department or to a 3-judge panel in Washington and ask for approval of maps. And to do that, they had to show that the maps were not intentionally discriminatory and also that they didn't result in retrogression, that is to say, a reduction in the political power of minority communities. The Supreme Court, in a decision in 2013 called Shelby County versus Holder, eliminated that requirement. Congress could put it back, but Congress hasn't yet, and so as a result, states will no longer be required to get federal pre-approval, and there's a lot of concern that will encourage states to discriminate against African Americans and Latinos, particularly in the South, and especially in fast-growing states like Texas and North Carolina.